Today we are talking about something that every woman will experience at some point, but surprisingly many of us still don't fully understand it, menopause. I'm here with Katie. Hi. Katie is a qualified nutritionist working with women navigating hormonal changes. So we explore what menopause actually is, what women experience, and how lifestyle, nutrition, mindset can influence the journey. Before we dive in, Katie, can you tell us a little bit about your background and how you started specializing in women's health?
Of course. My name's Katie and I studied at CNM, which is a really nice college in Islington. It's a College of Naturopathic Medicine. They actually have many campuses all over Europe. I studied for 3 years. I had to study anatomy and physiology, disease processes. Quite a lot of it was on supplementation, 3-year diploma, and then I was qualified.
Amazing. So I will start with the very simple question. What is menopause and what actually happens to the body during the menopause?
So menopause is a very interesting transitional phase in a woman's life, usually starting at around ages 45 to 55. And it marks the end of fertility for us as we move into this new chapter, and the end of our menstrual cycles.
Yeah. So what is the difference between the premenopause and menopause?
So the perimenopause will start a few years. It's obviously very dependent on each person. So the ballpark for menopause is around 45 to 55. Perimenopause can be depending on each individual woman and her background and her hormones. It's usually around 43, but there can be obviously early onset menopause as well. So it's usually about 43 to 45 that we start going through the perimenopause. And this is when our body's hormones are starting to change, but it's very gradual. It's more like mood shifts, sleep disturbances, anxiety, them kind of things. And then as we move into the menopause, it's actually clinically classified as menopause once you've had no menstruation for a year. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So is the menopause physical or psychological?
I think it's a bit of both. I think there's a lot of stigma nowadays around it with, I think in certain cultures it's not as it's very medicalized, I feel like, over here now, and it's just a very natural thing. It's not a disease, it's like a normal part of aging for us. But I would say it's both. I think there are psychological aspects to it, there's obviously the physical aspects to it, there's a lot of mood changes, irritability, anxiety, so there's definitely a psychological aspect to it for sure. And then the physical aspects of it would be like you can get fatigue, you get obviously the night sweats, psychosomatic things, so yeah, it's both.
I actually did a little bit of research because you know me, I'm like always all about mental health. And I read that in Japan, menopause it's called konenki, and it refers to life transition or stage of maturity, not something seen as a medical problem or loss of femininity. The study shown that only 10 to 20% Japanese women report severe hot flashes or menopausal symptoms compared to Western countries at around 70 to 80% of women report hot flashes. So maybe it is just a psychological
I think absolutely. I think not necessarily just a psychological issue though. I think a lot of that is down to diet and certain things that the Japanese cultures eat more of that we don't. But from a nutritional therapist perspective, I would recommend to clients to incorporate more of those foods, such as soya products.
Yes, they do
organic soya products are incredible. It's like a very nice natural estrogen. So they eat their diet is replete in these foods.
Which is interesting because people say that soya is not healthy, right? So I should confuse. So
nonsense. So I think that if it's organic soya, it's one of the most healthy foods that you can eat, and especially when you're going through menopause, or even if you're not going through menopause and you've just got some hormonal imbalances. So it works as a natural estrogen for our body. So it's super supportive when we're going through the menopause because our estrogen is declining. Our adrenal glands are picking up the slack that the ovaries would normally be producing estrogen. The adrenal glands then start.
Is it the estrogen declining or testosterone?
It's all of them. So you've got estrogen, progesterone and testosterone. So they'll all start to decline. So soy isoflavones are one of the most brilliant things that you can eat if you wanted to do a natural kind of hormone balancing and supporting your body throughout that time. And Japanese cultures eat tons of it, so I wonder if they are less symptomatic because they are incorporating more of these foods. They also have a lot of iodine in their diet, where they're eating a lot of seaweed. And I do see in my clinic, when women are coming in with menopause and perimenopause, oftentimes the thyroid is also not functioning properly, and underactive thyroid problems can manifest in a lot of the same ways as menopause symptoms. So
it's the same symptoms?
Very similar symptoms.
So how do you ask a doctor if it is the thyroid?
Absolutely, I would get thyroid panel done for sure, always, and then you would fix that, and that usually helps a lot. And so, as I said, lots of Japanese cultures are eating a lot of iodine, which is really important for healthy thyroid. It helps the thyroid create thyroid hormones, which then to get the thyroid to work properly.
Which is quite interesting, because I had my thyroid checked and they said it's underactive, and I ignored it because I didn't want to get on medication, and it went away. How is it possible?
So I think sometimes it can be underactive for many reasons. It might not just be a deficiency in iodine, for example. It could be that you have got chronic stress going on, and if there's chronic stress, your body will create a hormone called reverse T3, which basically suppresses the active hormone that the thyroid needs to actually function, which is T3. So when you're under chronic stress, if you maybe were at that time in your life, if the stress then went away, reverse T3 is going to go down, and then the thyroid can regain normal function again. So it could have been that.
So it's the diet,
one of the reasons.
So which symptoms tend to surprise women the most with the menopause?
I don't really know from my own experience if they are necessarily surprised by any one particular symptom over the others. I think it's just generally like the lack of energy is usually the main one that comes up for me, and sleep disturbances. And then when they get a bit further along in the actual menopause, it's usually the anxiety. They always say to me, the ladies, I just get so stressed out about that, and anxious about the silliest things that wouldn't normally affect me, and now affecting me, and I'm like, I've got no control over it. So
Can we ignore menopause, or can we prevent it or stop it?
I don't think we can ignore it because it's a natural part of life. I think that we should definitely embrace it, and I do really believe the same as how you was just saying with the Japanese cultures, that we're actually moving into this phase of I would like to call it the wise woman or the crone era, and you've gained so much experience, and we really kind of come into our own as women when we go into this stage of life. So it's actually, for me, a phase of life that we should honour and be thankful for and grateful for, and make peace with it. It's natural. It's the way it is,
So what are the biggest myths about menopause?
Probably one of the biggest myths I would say is that all women that go through menopause are going to gain weight, and then I suppose that...
Isn't it true?
It's not true, I don't think. No, I think diet and lifestyle massively are implemented in that for sure. I mean, absolutely there are going to be some hormonal fluctuations, so you are maybe going to be a little bit more susceptible to some weight gain around the middle. But if you're otherwise got an active lifestyle and you're doing some good strength training, which is really important when we're getting into our post-menopausal years.
More than cardio, like a muscle.
Definitely more so than cardio. Cardio can be a little bit too cortisol spiking, in my personal opinion, and you don't really want cortisol to be super high, because that's going to also tank your hormones even more. You want to be doing gentle strength training, yoga, all of the good calming, relaxing.
My clients, they always complain about a very low sex libido.
That's another myth that I was going to say. So I think for some women, that is totally a thing. Absolutely.
So, or is it related to hormones?
It's definitely going to be related to hormones. It's going to be related to estrogen. It's going to be related to testosterone. It can be just to do with life and stress, and just a busy life and kids and what. Is it definitely because of the menopause? I think it can be partly to do with it, but I don't think that, in my personal opinion, all women that I've worked with menopausal issues, they don't all report having low libido. So again, I think it depends on how were your hormones before you went into the perimenopause. Were they already a little bit up in the air and low here and high there, and then you've gone into the menopause, and if you already had quite low progesterone or estrogen and now it's even lower, then you may be at a heightened risk of having a lower sex drive. It doesn't, not for everybody.
I wanted to talk about the testosterone hormones. I always like what do you think about the hormonal therapy and also the birth control pills? When they start in a very early age, does it affect the menopause?
I think so, definitely, because you're putting synthetic hormones into your body for a long period of your life, basically, and so your normal signals that the body would be picking up are up and down.
Because you have experience with the contraceptive pills.
Absolutely. So and again, it's all to do with, I think as well, like genetics play like a huge role, which I was going to get to a bit later on in our discussion. But I think if you haven't done a genetics test, which not many people have done, but it was very eye-opening for me when I did do my genetics test later on in life. So when I was younger, they put me on just a typical estrogen mini pill, and I hadn't been on contraception before, and I'm generally quite an upbeat, positive, optimistic person. Cup half full, I've always been that way. And I remember taking this contraceptive pill when I was very young. I was only in my early 20s, and I had this overwhelming, just this sadness. I was just so sad and like irritable and angry, and it just was so out of character for me. And even before doing any kind of nutrition studying or anything to do with health and hormones and just the body, and I just knew that it could only be to do with this pill that I'd been taking, because it literally coincided with the pill and then these mood swings. And I went to the doctors and they switched me over to a progesterone pill rather than an estrogen one. And the difference was like stark. I just was back to my normal self, felt incredible. And then years later, when I did my genetics testing, I actually have a genetic variant called COMT, and mine is an underactive COMT, which means that the COMT is an enzyme basically that helps you to break down stress hormones and estrogen.
Oh, it's a form of enzyme.
Catecholamine enzyme, yeah. So it helps you to break down stress hormones and estrogens, and mine works 50% slower than the average person's, which means that I clear estrogen 50% more slowly than what most people do. So I am more of an estrogen dominant type person. So to then give me an estrogen pill and dump more estrogen onto my body, I couldn't clear it quickly enough. And so then you get all of the symptoms of estrogen dominance, which would be the mood swings, the sadness, the anger, the just feeling completely not like myself at all. And then obviously finding out that I had polycystic ovaries later on in life, which would have also meant that I was lower in progesterone.
Is it related also? Is it common? So if you do have it, most of the women complain about the weight gain. Is it the truth or not?
Absolutely. So I think there's many different PCOS can be PCOS for me could be different to why you have PCOS. So there's many different subtypes of PCOS. Mostly across the board, people do find when they've looked into the research of it that a large percentage of people with PCOS do have a bit of insulin resistance and weight gain, but not all. I've seen clients that are completely healthy, if anything, a little bit underweight. So it depends. It's not really the driving force as to why you have PCOS. It can be in some people contributing to it and a side effect of it, but it's not the root cause as to what's causing it. In some it is, in others it isn't. Sometimes it's inflammatory related. Sometimes it's hormonal issues from genetic variants where you're not clearing hormones properly. Sometimes it is to do with diet and lifestyle and insulin resistance. Sometimes it's to do with androgen dominance. So you have too many male testosterones and that's throwing everything else off whack, So it's not really a one size fits all. There's one real true root cause for it. It's kind of multifactorial, but weight gain and insulin resistance is seen across a lot of it.
When do you recommend to have the test done? The one you had, the genetic?
I would say it's just if you've got the money to do it. It's not super expensive, but it can be a little bit expensive for some people. And it's not cheap by any means, but it is eye-opening. So I think if you are struggling with, for me, I had a healthy diet and I ate well, so I knew that my PCOS couldn't have been through diet. It wasn't dietary related or for anything I was doing with my diet, and I just couldn't get my head around what could possibly be driving it. It's not really prevalent in my family, so it's not like a huge genetic link there, so I just didn't understand it. And then when I did do my hormone test and I realised I didn't clear estrogen well, and I also don't clear stress hormones well, it just made so much sense to me, and I thought, well, that's probably likely.
So how did you fix it then after?
So there's lots of things that you can do to help support your liver, and I think that all women going through any kind of hormonal imbalance, I always say let's start with the liver for sure, because the liver is it's our main detoxifier in our body. So it's not just detoxifying the air that we breathe and the food that we eat and the liquids that we drink. It's literally detoxifying hormones, neurotransmitters. It's detoxifying everything. So lots of people, again, can have genetic variants where, so the liver goes through 3 phases of detoxification, phase 1, 2 and 3. In phase 1, we actually tend to make substances more toxic, and then in phase 2 we then tend to make them less toxic, and in phase 3 we bind them to water and then we excrete them out either through the feces or through urination. Lots of people tend to do phase 1 really well, so we're good at making things more toxic. So you have like a glass of wine and then the body actually makes it even more of a toxin. So we do phase 1 pretty well, but phase 2 is where a lot of people tend to struggle, and phase 2 requires certain B vitamins, certain antioxidants like glutathione and acetylcysteine. Also, really amazing thing that you can just incorporate into your diet is cruciferous vegetables. So they are a fantastic food to eat. They're full of a compound called sulforaphane, which is amazing for detoxifying and supporting the liver. And that can really, really help to shuttle the liver through the phases of detoxification more efficiently, so that you can then actually bind anything excess that you don't need. Because if you're not clearing hormones properly in the liver, you're reuptaking things that your body's trying to already break down and get rid of, as well as then making more. So you can get a build-up again of more estrogens if you're not excreting them out how you're supposed to be, you know. So supporting the liver is a really, really great place to start, and tend to get good results just from starting there, you know.
So what are the main symptoms for the menopause? Because obviously the hot flashes.
Not everybody does experience those, but it is a one that I do hear of a lot. So
from the customers.
Yeah, I do think that with the hot flashes, they tend to be more, I've noticed, and it's just from my own observation, so I don't know what the research is saying, I've not actually had time to look into that yet, but I have noticed from my own clients that I've had that those that tend to have gone through major stresses in life, like if they've had a bereavement of someone really close to them, or a parent, or they've gone through like major job losses, or they've had a lot of stress and the adrenals are already a little bit tanked. I think that when they then start to move into I've noticed that when they start to move into the perimenopause and the menopause, they tend to be at a heightened risk for, or more susceptible to risks, not really a risk, but more susceptible to hot flashes. And I do think that it's because the adrenals are already kind of tanked from all of the stress, and then they're now also trying to pick up the slack of, so when we go into the menopause and the perimenopause, the ovaries stop making estrogen for us, and the adrenal glands start to make a different type of estrogen for us, and these are 2 little tiny glands that sit on top of the kidneys, and so they're already doing a lot. They're making stress hormones for us, they're regulating so much our kidneys, so many things, you know, and then now they've got to also pick up the slack of the ovaries and make a little bit of estrogen for us, so even a little bit of progesterone. So it's a lot for them, and I think that those women that have had kind of a lot of stress going on sort of the decade before perimenopause hits, I have seen a correlation between those ladies having more of the hot flashes. So
so it's mainly from
disturbances,
immune disturbances,
sleep disturbances,
From a nutrition perspective, what are the most important things women should focus on during the menopause?
I think just a healthy diet in general. So going back to the Japanese studies and cultures that you was referencing, they have one of the lowest rates of obesity over there. They eat really healthy. They don't have tons of packaged processed foods. They've not got fast food restaurants all over the place. They tend to home cook things, meals from scratch. It's healthy, natural food that grows from the ground, and it's, you know, how we should be eating anyway. So I think that having too many stimulants, like too much caffeine, too much alcohol in the diet, so many of my clients, just from cutting alcohol right back to a couple of glasses a week rather than a glass every night, makes an absolutely phenomenal difference in there.
Some people say the glass of wine every night is healthy. So
I think that there is a little catch-22 there. So I think that when you're going through hormonal fluctuations, if it is just 125ml unit of red wine and there's some nice resveratrol in there, which is good for the heart and anti-aging and all that good stuff.
Let's have resveratrol back.
Cheers to the resveratrol. However, if it is just that one glass that you're having, then maybe, but I think if you're really struggling with menopausal symptoms, then I just do like to see if we can just take that back and maybe just do it on the weekend. and then there is an improvement, then you'll know for that particular client that maybe that one glass is not really working so much as a benefit at the minute, you know.
So is there any specific supplement?
There's lots of foods that you can take for a start. So like I was saying, so you've got the soy isolate flavonoids are amazing. They've got compounds that absolutely, they can't eat soy because they're intolerant. You can have flax seeds. They're an incredible source again of the natural estrogens. They contain really amazing compounds called lignans, which have been shown to be fantastic for helping to balance out naturally the hormones. They're absolutely not going to be as strong as what hormone replacement therapy would be, but I would urge people to start early in the perimenopause with these foods in the diet, and then they might actually find that when they get into the actual menopausal part of it, they don't need to do, or they don't feel the inclination to do the HRT.
My client, she has the premenopause. But she doesn't know she has it. She went to doctor and they told her. So what do you recommend for the women? Because some of the women don't realize they have it. So how do I know, for example, I have it?
I think it's hard, isn't it? Because, so, like we said, so many of the menopause and perimenopausal symptoms are also symptoms just of life. You get a bit tired because you've not got great sleep. You know, you get a bit stressed out. You're feeling a bit more anxious. Is that just normal life, or is it the menopause? I think it's kind of really important for us to know our own bodies, because if you know you've always been a bit of an anxious person anyway, and then you get into the menopause and the perimenopause and that goes through the roof, then that's likely because of hormonal fluctuations, if there's not like chronic things going on at work or in family life and things like that, you know. If you've never really suffered with anxiety and then you come into your 43s and 44s and you're thinking, I'm getting a bit of anxiety and it's not like me, then that would signal to me that it's probably much more likely to do with your hormones rather than because it's not something you've always suffered with, you know. And even if you have always suffered with anxiety, you probably always had a bit of a hormonal imbalance, you know. It's a possibility that there's that. So I think it's just important to know your body, know yourself, and know how you've been throughout life. And then is this a new symptom for me? I've never used to have these symptoms before, then it's more likely to be hormonal.
So did you ever experience client, because you're a nutritionist, so who you couldn't help at all?
So far, touch wood, no. There's been, I've had really interesting cases where I have had a lady who had gone on to HRT when she was through the menopause. She got the whole way through it and was fine, was out the other side of it, and then decided to start taking HRT.
What is HRT?
Hormone replacement therapy. Sorry, do beg your pardon. So she started to take that in but she was like way past the menopause. She was done and dusted with it. She was in her 60s. And this poor lady come to see me because she had what she was told she had vaginal atrophy, which is when the vagina actually, the muscles of the vagina actually literally atrophy, which means they basically shrivel up. So it's great. It's great, isn't it? Seriously. So basically it just shrinks like a little.
I don't understand what's to complain about.
No, but I think it can also be quite uncomfortable because then you get a lot of vaginal dryness as well. And again, not everybody suffers with it, but some women do suffer with it really bad because one of the functions of estrogen is that it helps to keep us lubricated everywhere. So you get a lot of women that come to see me get dry eyes and they get dry mouth, really bad dry mouth when they're going through the menopause. And they're like, I've got terrible dry mouth and these dry eyes. And then that is usually a good indication that they've got
what supplement do you usually recommend those women for?
So for the dry, it depends really. It depends on what the symptoms are, right? So if it's vaginal dryness or dryness in general that they're dealing with, even in primrose, starflower, which is a really lovely oil that's got higher concentrations of omegas 3, 6 and 9 in there, and that can be super, super helpful for ladies that are experiencing like dryness of the eyes and the mucous membranes and obviously of the vagina. And then if it's to do with hot flashes, one of my favourite things ever would be sage. Sage is a brilliant herb. It's very astringent in its properties.
Tea or something?
You can take it as a tea, you can take it as a tincture, you can take it in capsule form. It really depends on what your preference is. Sage tea is not the most palatable thing, but I don't mind it. But some people think it's not the easiest one to drink. So there is capsules, there's tinctures, and sage in itself as a herb is very astringent, which means it's drying. So it's not just good for menopause, it's actually good for any condition where there's dampness or mucus. If you've got like a chesty cough or a runny nose or lots of hay fever or heavy periods, sage can be fantastic.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely.
Good to know.
Yeah. So it really depends. CBD is great if they've got the anxiety side of things, if they can't sleep, because again, if you're not sleeping well, which often happens if you're waking up in the night sweating and then you're having broken sleep, that's going to heighten all of the other symptoms of the menopause, like the anxiety and the irritability and the brain fog and the can't focus. If you're not having a good night's sleep, all of those symptoms are going to be heightened anyway.
This is the true story. One of my customers, she's taking the CBD drops.
Yeah.
She's putting the CBD cream. Amazing.
Well, you know, you're the CBD queen over here.
I'm just saying, it's not like a promotion.
No, of course, it's got so many. I love it. I've been using this all the time. It's fantastic. But yeah, no, CBD is great across the board for all different things.
Oh, thank you. So now I have the most important question.
Yes.
I don't know. What do you think about these Ozempic, Manjaro weight loss injections, which are very popular now?
Well, as a functional nutritionist who's focusing on natural remedies and diet, basically, I feel like if you have got a type 1 or type 2, should I say, diabetes condition going on, and you have tried everything you can with diet and lifestyle, and you just can't get there, but you've already got a good dietary foundation in place, and you just want to do it to try and just get a little bit of excess weight off, but you're otherwise really already regimentedly good in your diet, then fine.
That's amazing. I thought you were going to be against it.
No, not at all. I think there's a place for it. But as far as girls or men or anybody just taking it for the sake of losing a bit of weight quickly when they've not addressed dietary imbalances and poor eating habits, you're just going to spend all this money on this hormone that you're effectively injecting into yourself, and then you're going to come off of it, and if the dietary things aren't already in place and you don't know how to eat properly and you've not learned how to eat properly and what healthy eating is, everything's just going to go back on. So one, it's a waste of money. Two, I just think this up and down with yo-yoing on and off of these they're hormones. I mean, insulin's a hormone. Should we just be willy-nilly injecting ourselves with it just because we want to lose a few extra pounds for a wedding or something? For me personally, no. I think they need to be done properly. They should be administered by a doctor. You should absolutely not be getting them off of the black market or someone that you know.
Online, like I know somebody who ordered it and she's really underweight.
That's what I'm saying. You've got these girls.
Yeah, she has everything disorder. Yeah. She ordered it online.
It really does need to be strictly monitored, and I think
you can go to Superdrugs and get it.
If it's being used sensibly, then great. But I think it's there's also, like everything, right? There's going to be people that are going to use it for not so great.
So what is the perfect diet?
So I don't think there's really a perfect diet per se. I think that everyone's dietary preferences are different.
So you are a vegetarian?
I'm vegetarian. I'm like a pescatarian, I would say. So I eat a bit of fish from time to time.
Can I ask why did you decide to do
mostly for ethical reasons, to be honest. So then I do actually feel quite bad when I do eat fish, because I'm like, oh gosh. But I do think that oily fish is really important in the diet. Obviously a great omega-3, which is really important for our brains and for our hearts. There are really, really great plant-based omega-3s, don't get me wrong. So it's a little bit of a hypochondriac hypocrite there. So I really looked at omegas for vegetarians. But I do enjoy a little bit of fish from time to time, but I do feel bad about it because actually it's mostly for ethical reasons, but sometimes I do have a little bit of fish.
So what do you eat like all day?
I eat beans and legumes with rice, which will be a complete protein. It's going to have all 9 of your essential amino acids, so there's no worry there about not getting enough protein. I think there's a big hype around protein at the moment, and I do think it's really important that you're getting enough of it in the diet, but it's in absolutely everything. So protein is not just in tons of chicken, loads of eggs and cheese and all this stuff. It's in everything. There's protein in broccoli. There's protein in every single thing that you eat. It's just not going to be in abundant amounts as what it's going to be in a steak, but it's there. Proteins are just strands of amino acids. So amino acids are the building blocks of proteins, and amino acids are found in everything. So as long as you're eating a wide array of foods and it's balanced, and you're eating beans and legumes as a vegetarian, then you're having them paired with a little bit of rice here and there or a whole grain, you're covering all 9 essential amino acids. And it's really, really hard, unless you're in a third world country and starving to death, to actually be protein deficient. It's super hard. So most people need to have between 1 gram to 1.5 grams. It depends. I think if you're for both, basically. So it's usually a pound per pound of body weight. You have a gram of protein. If you're trying to actively build muscle and you're bodybuilding, you're weight training, you're working out, you might want to lean more into the 1.5, per pound of body weight. And it's so hard to not get, if you're eating a well-balanced diet, it's really hard to not get at least 1 gram of protein. It's about 20 grams of protein if you're having 3 square meals a day is more than enough, if you're not particularly trying to build tons of muscle?
I did try to eat. I was trying to be a vegetarian, and I came across with tofu because I love tofu. But then when I look at the ingredients,
so if you're getting,
wow, it's so processed.
but if you're getting these like tofu fake meat burgery things, then that's going to probably be a bit more processed. But if you actually was to buy tofu itself, it literally is just organic. Always it should be, never genetically modified, because then it doesn't give you the health benefits as what organic tofu does. So always my main thing with soya is that it has to be organic, right? So I personally don't have any issue with soy. I know that some people find it a bit difficult to digest and they can be a bit intolerant to it. I sometimes think it's actually because they're not used to eating bean anyway in their diet. So when you actually move over to like a more beanie based diet, that you are going to get a bit of gas and bloating when you're eating more cruciferous vegetables, because we're not used to eating them. But it's usually a 6-month period of eating them every day and starting small and incorporating it a bit more as the weeks go by. Got a digestive enzyme in there if you're really struggling. I mean, it's fine.
And you also mentioned eating 4 to 5 times a day. You eat them.
Yeah, it just depends, right? So if you are somebody who has got, sometimes people can have issues with their liver or their bile, so it's better for them to eat smaller, more frequent meals spread out the day. So some people, grading actually is a better way for them to eat than other people do fantastic with fasting. So it really,
this is what I want to do. There's a new study that you should not eat 4 times a day. It should be like intermittent fasting for everybody. But then new studies say that intermittent fasting is not good for women. And so
for women and hormones, for me, for fasting, there is quite a hype, I agree, around like fasting, and fasting has got some amazing benefit. Autophagy, the body goes into self-repair mode, and there's fantastic longevity research on fasting. So I'm absolutely not knocking fasting at all. Fasting, brilliant. And if you've got insulin resistance, it's a fantastic way to help get insulin down. If you're a woman, it's not the same as a man. So when we're going through the phase of menstruation, if you're still having a period, in the first 2 weeks, so when your period starts, in the first 2 weeks after that point, you can lean more into a longer fast. So if you wanted to do a 24-hour water fast, fine. If you wanted to do 16-8, great. When we go into our luteal phase, which is when we're starting to make healthy eggs and our eggs forming, you definitely don't want to do, in my opinion anyway, anything longer than probably a 14-hour fast. And you want to lean a bit more into sweeter foods in the sense of like squashes, big potatoes, fruit, papayas, melons, and sorts of things. And then when we get into the last 2 weeks of our cycle, which is when we're then starting to make a lot more progesterone, and then we're going to come into our next menstruation, that's usually a week before we start bleeding. It's really important then that you don't fast. Absolutely not, because it causes a lot of stress on the body. So hormetic stress is the type of stress where it's kind of beneficial to the body. That was a little bit of fasting, for example. That's great if you're in the estrogen building phase of your cycle, which is the day that you bleed, 2 weeks in. When we're going into making a healthy egg, and then we're going into making more progesterone, you definitely don't want to be cortisol spiking, because to make progesterone, you don't want to have too much cortisol floating around. So the precursor to progesterone is called pregnenolone, which is a type of hormone that your body uses to then make progesterone. But it's the same hormone that your body uses to make cortisol. And if you're doing extended fasting at this time, your body is not going to produce progesterone from pregnenolone. It's going to shuttle pregnenolone down the cortisol pathway, because your body doesn't know that you're just fasting. The body thinks there's a saber-tooth tiger when you're trying to escape. So it's not going to prioritise having a period and making a baby when you're in chronic stress or perceived stress. It's thinking, wow, we need to get out of here. There's an emergency going on, so let's make cortisol so we can run for our lives. And so if you're making cortisol, there's not enough pregnenolone to then make progesterone, and so you can get a lot of irregular periods, which is what you often find with women that are doing extended fasting at the wrong times of the month.
Yeah. And talking about period, do you have any advice or supplement advice for PMS? Everybody having a PMS syndrome, like everybody has it, or is it just?
So again, it's usually, it could be hormonal imbalance. It can be. I don't really get PMS actually. It's not really something that I'm not sure if it's like a genetic thing or.
You never had it?
Not really. No.
Actually, it's something about it, because I used to suffer with terrible PMS.
Yeah.
And then it's just, I don't know if it went away or.
Is it dietary related? Is it, again, was you really stressed out at that time?
I still have it, but it's not as severe like I had it before.
So it's very interesting, isn't it? So yeah, again, it just depends on supplement advice for
for PMS would be, what type of PMS symptoms have you got? Because is it just irritability, or is it really bad cramping? Is there a really heavy period? Is there
eating habits, everybody?
you're eating enough fibre? Because a lot of people are not eating enough fibre, and there's a massive link between the gut microbiome and also our hormones. So if you're not having enough fibre and you're not repeating the body and having a regular bowel movement every day, like I said, are you re-uptaking hormones that you're actually supposed to be excreting? So again, it's usually to do with some sort of hormonal imbalance somewhere.
So it is, but why women can't resist eating sweets?
We forget again because of the progesterone, right? So when you're trying to build progesterone, this is a hormone that we're making a lot of the week before we start our period. And progesterone loves to have a little bit of glucose, which is why fasting is not great around that time, because the reason we're craving chocolate and sweets is because we need the sugar to help to make progesterone. I'm eating things like sweet potatoes, yams, papayas, so eat the right type of sugar. You know, if you want to have a little bit of dark chocolate, or you want to have a bit of chocolate before your period, oh my gosh, life is for living, you know. And I think absolutely don't deprive yourself of these things. But if you can lean more into sweet potatoes and like I said, papayas and those orangey type foods and fruits, they're fantastic things. I mean, when you're thinking about natural forms of HRT, one of the things that we would recommend as a form of natural progesterone would be wild yam.
What is it?
A wild yam is in the same family as like sweet potatoes and those kind of things, but it has a nice amount of natural progesterone. It basically helps your body build its own progesterone. So you want to have progesterone building foods in the week before your period, and they tend to be a little bit higher in the glycemic index, but not in the sense of a white sugar, you know.
Like there is something in America now which is very popular, and I'll give it to Sophia. I'm gonna give it to you.
Okay.
So would you mind to bring the lemon and the berries? So I'm gonna let her to.
Oh, interesting.
So it is very popular in the US. It's tricking your taste.
Oh, interesting.
It's a type of, so you need to actually take out your chewing gums, which I will grab the tissue as well. There's a tissue.
Oh, look at there.
And can I have the,
Of course.
so I will tell you what to do. So you need to take, chewing gum out. Okay, taste the lemon.
Okay. Taste the lemon.
Okay, it's gonna take up to 20
whole?
minutes or the whole, just to taste it. Don't eat it, just taste it. It's right there. Okay, got it. Don't let it hold it. Yeah, you can put it back.
In here.
And
I got some tips.
take one and eat it. Chew it. And it will take about 10 minutes. Are we talking? Yeah. And I will tell you in 10 minutes what does it do. Okay. We tackle on PMS and eating during the period. I wanted to ask you about you and helping other women with the nutrition. Do you have any case of women where it was like a huge transformation, like life-changing journey?
I think it's just been, it's really, I always get really good feedback from just improving their symptoms. So I think for many women, even if it's, I mean, with this lady that I was speaking about before, who had really bad vaginal atrophy and vaginal dryness, they put her on HRT, and then we actually
everybody on HRT.
Well, actually, she decided she wanted to take the HRT because she was looking at some podcasts. She was already through the menopause.
I told you about it. I remember I was speaking about it.
So she was listening to a lot of influencers online, and she was like, "I'm gonna." And don't get me wrong, there's.
Are you pro the HRT or are you against?
It depends on the person, right? So I think if you have already a higher risk of osteoporosis, osteopenia, and real bad bone issues and arthritis, and there's a big link in the family, like a genetic link, you may want to think about doing a little bit of HRT, possibly. If there's like a higher risk of like cardiovascular issues, also dementias and things like that, then there may be a place for it. If you also are really struggling with symptoms, you know, then absolutely you don't want to live the next like decade of your life like pulling your hair out and like feeling like the world's ending, you know. So there possibly is, but I feel like it's not a one dose fits all, and they tend to at the GP prescribe a one dose fits all. And with this older lady,
and what is it? Is it testosterone they prescribe? Or
I don't always give the testosterone. It's usually estrogen, progesterone. Okay. So I would say if anyone's thinking about doing HRT, then they should absolutely do the body identical one for sure, always. So it's basically identical to our own hormones. Otherwise, you can get a synthetic form, which comes from mare's urine, which is the urine of pregnant horses, which is where they get
wild. So that's definitely not body identical to our type of hormones, you know. So you would get the body identical ones for us, and then I would always say that not everyone's dose should be the same. So again, if you are somebody who has a genetic compromisation where you don't metabolize estrogens well, but you did metabolize and I didn't, then your dose of estrogen would be the normal dose they would recommend to everybody, which is great. Your body's going to cycle through it normally, it's going to be fine. For me, it's not going to be fine because I'm not going to cycle through that in the same speed that you are. So I'm going to then take a second dose tomorrow and I've still got 50% of yesterday's dose in my body, whereas you probably don't have. So I'm going to be building up 50% each day. So then I'm going to have estrogen dominance. And this lovely lady that I had, this lovely client of mine, they'd given her the intravaginal progesterone gel because she had this really painful, they said it was vaginal atrophy, but it was just a really painful sensation, obviously in her vagina. And they gave her this vaginal estrogen, and then when we actually looked into her genetics, this poor lady basically just wasn't metabolizing estrogen basically at all, and she'd had endometriosis when she was younger, which is another indication that she already wasn't metabolizing estrogens well, and then they kept giving her a little bit more here and there and a bit more here and there, and then she was getting all these irritabilities and these like really sore like skin conditions, and basically estrogen can make the skin super sensitive, so her vagina was really, really sensitive, bless her, and she had a lovely like relationship still with her husband, and she wanted to, you know, carry on being intimate, bless her, but it was just so painful. And so when we actually looked at her genetics and at her liver enzymes, there's some enzymes called CYP450 enzymes, and they're actually, again, responsible for how your liver detoxifies things, and certain enzymes that she had that helped her body to make glutathione, which is an antioxidant, also like really important for hormones and other things in the body. Certain enzymes, she just didn't have them, they were just deleted, so they didn't even exist. So she was obviously having a terrible time with the HRT because the dosage for her should have been minute, like 0.4 of a dose of whatever they would give the average person, you know. And we finally managed to tweak that.
So
I spoke
thanks
to her.
To you, she went off.
So I actually spoke to her gynecologist and to her private HRT person and doctor, and then we weaned her down a bit, and she's got a good symptom improvement from that. So
incredible. You must be very happy to see.
It's really rewarding, to give people comfort back.
Before we finished, quick question: what would you do if somebody's addicted to a sugar addict?
What can we do to somebody who's addict? Are we all? So I would say just try.
I'm so sorry to remember. Why it is different between like why women are more tend to be leading towards eating more sugar than men?
I don't know if it is so much. No, I know men that I've got a real sugar tooth. Yeah, I've got a lot of male clients that have got a big sweet tooth. So I don't think necessarily, I mean, around the time of the month, as we just discussed, there is genuinely an actual biological reason as to why we actually crave sugar around that time. And then I think we just want to eat the chocolate. We don't need to eat the chocolate. We can eat other sweet things, you know. So I don't think it's just women at all. I just think that there's studies that they've done on it. It's more addictive than cocaine when they're studying it with mice. So it's addictive because it gives our brain this little woo, and this little dopamine hit, and feel-good hormones are released. And so, I mean,
and it's everywhere. And as you are a nutritionist, you must get crazy when you read the ingredients and everybody. It's literally you go to the shop and you see. Now I'm reading because I'm learning from you, so I'm literally taking even the, I don't know what was it the other day, tomato sauce. You're just reading it's full of sugar. There is no such a good.
There's going to be sugar in tomato sauce from natural sugars, but it's the added stuff, you know, like natural sugars coming from the tomatoes because they're naturally sweet anyway.
Bread,
not a problem.
it's everywhere, literally.
The added stuff is the stuff that we need to be mindful of.
So, what do you recommend?
Try the dark stuff. I mean, I used to hate dark chocolate, but now it's the only thing I eat. I love it. The milk stuff is just way too sweet for me. So switch over to some dark. I'd say start on a 70%. It's still going to have some sugar in there, obviously. And then if you're transitioning from milk or white chocolates or really sugary things, start at 70% and see if you can get up to a 99 or 100. And
I had 100.
It's super bitter, but you definitely can learn to enjoy it, to like it. Or dates. Have a little, if you've got a sweet tooth, have some dates. Just do smart choices, smart swaps, rather than having a dairy milk bar. Have some dates. If you want to make them a little bit, it's not something you want to have every single day. Obviously, and if you've got insulin resistance, be mindful not having too many of these things, because even the good sugars can be a bit problematic if you're super insulin resistant. But it's still a smart swap, you know. And if you're not insulin resistant and you want to enjoy a little bit of chocolate, get some dates, stuff them with a nut, roll them in some dark chocolate, put them in the fridge.
Swap. This is what I'm trying to do exactly. I try to even switch, because I love cake, cakes is my favorite. Now I'm making my own with apple, dates, maple syrup. I know it's quite sugary, but
have you ever tried black bean brownies?
No.
Amazing.
Seriously?
And then you're getting all of
Are they sweets?
Yeah, of course, brownies, but made with black beans instead of making them with cream, butter, milk, eggs, whatever you're using.
So how do you do it? Like you buy
you buy a can of black beans, and you usually blend them with some oat flour, and then you would add into it some sweetener of your choice. You don't need to go crazy with it, and some cocoa powder. Sweetener of your choice could be maple syrup, it could be date nectar, which is amazing. So then they're going to have nutrients in them. So like the maple syrups and the date syrups are going to be more nutrient dense than refined white sugar, you know. If you wanted to just use unrefined brown sugar, it's going to still have more nutrients in it than white sugar, and you don't need to use tons of it. But with the black bean brownies,
misconception about brown and white sugar. What is the misconception about?
I think it's just unrefined. It's just not gone
white
through.
sugar.
It's still going to spike insulin. It's still going to do all of the things, but it's going to have more nutrient properties. So if you're going to have these things, try to have the nutrients in them as well, you know. So I just think it's like smart swaps, and honestly, black bean brownies changed.
I'm gonna try it.
I'll give you the recipe. I'm gonna try it. So good, honestly, like incredible, like delicious, so moist, and just good.
So you're giving a recipe to your clients as well? I'm gonna try it. For sure, you have to give me the recipe. So try it again. Let's see if it works.
Is this the thing that dumbs down your taste buds to sours, or maybe even sweet?
Let me see. It's supposed to be 20 minutes. How does it taste?
So sweet.
Yeah. So basically,
oh my god, that is delicious.
Yeah. It has been very popular in the US. Like you can get here as well, but this one is the best one, and it's changed the taste. So for people who are struggling with the weight and they don't like vegetable.
What is the name of this?
This is wild berry.
It's just called wild berry.
Yeah, and if you are want to change your diet, but you hate like celery, vegetable, it turns to sweet fruit. So, and if you, for example, if you eat a carrot, it turns to chocolate taste. I tried it yesterday.
Oh, wow.
You have to. This is like magic.
I mean, this is good, and it's got its place for sure.
Yeah.
But we kind of want to train our taste buds to enjoy
Imagine if you
the natural things. Yeah, absolutely. But that is, I mean, just if you want to eat some. I love lemon, but how many of them can you eat without putting a sour?
Oh, I learned something new about lemon. I don't want to make it, but I'm doing actually a friend of mine from the US.
Okay.
Is it right? Yeah. Friend of mine from the US. She told me that previously I had like drinks with lemon everywhere, restaurants. Yeah. But don't ask for the lemon, because apparently not many places wash the lemon.
Yeah.
And it causes terrible bacteria in your stomach, and it can grow, and it can cause horrible hormonal imbalance.
Well, any fruits, right? Any fruits and vegetables. I just think we should be washing everything all the time. All the time.
I did a test. I bought a organic from a Planet Organic store and Mark and Spencer, and I washed it, put it in the hot water with vinegar, all colored.
Yeah, of course.
The color change, it was...
So with the organic things, they are still allowed to spray them with pesticides, right? They're allowed to, but they're only allowed to use, I think it's 4 in total, and the 4 that they're allowed to use are they're not known to be super carcinogenic to the body, so they're really the least offensive ones that there are out there. So the super toxic bad ones, they're not allowed to use, but they are allowed to use still 4. So I think
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so this is the thing, I think, that people think that because you're buying organic, you don't need to wash anything. But not even just because of the pesticides and the residues. You have to also think, where are these fruits and vegetables coming from? Because in certain countries in Europe and across the world, they actually irrigate so if you've got farmland, they'll irrigate the vegetables with water that isn't always super sanitary, right? So this water, if it's contaminated with, for example, one thing I always think about is like freshwater vegetables like watercress, things like that. They're amazing foods. If they're growing in pools that have been contaminated with snails that contain a compound, or it's not compound, it's an enzyme called, an organism called a liver fluke. They're called flukes. They're like little parasitic larvae that when you then eat that produce and you've not washed it, these organisms are called liver flukes. They're little flukes, they're parasites basically, get into your liver, and they can actually really severely block up and damage the bile duct. So not lots of people, but I think there's it's very important for you to wash your fruits and veggies.
Now I'm I'm washing it.
Sadly, with the flukes, you actually can't wash them off. It's only actually hot water that would kill them because they're bacteria. But with the pesticides and the herbicides and the fungicides, just soak in everything for 15 minutes in a small amount of baking soda.
I'll do that, yeah.
There's actually scientific... Yes, the vinegar's good, but I would say the caveat to that is don't mix the two together. Either use vinegar or use baking soda. Don't do the both together.
No, why not?
Because when you add the baking soda and the vinegar together, it makes a neutral pH.
I should know that.
Yeah, you should know that, Cindy. So I think that with the research that they did on the baking soda for clearing pesticides and residues off of fruits and veggies was only baking soda, and it removed more than 99% of the residues of pesticides if you soaked your produce for 15 minutes. So you have to do a 15-minute soak, and it has to be baking soda alone. The research, they've not done it on the apple cider vinegar yet, but there is... You can see when you soak it, the stuff comes off, but I would use one or the other. The vinegars tend to be better for the soft fruits, and the baking soda is more for the veggies and the salads.
We're almost finishing, so last question. What do you think about the biohacking your body? Biohacking skin?
Yeah, so I think that it depends. I like to look at the research. What's the research saying? And again, I do just feel like for me,
microdosing.
Yeah, great. I mean, it's great. Again, it depends on each individual person. It's really depending on how you're metabolizing things. What's good for one is not always good for the other. And I think people tend to go a bit gung-ho with things, and they're like, oh, this is the new trend, so I'm going to take tons and tons of it because a little bit's good, so an insane amount of it must be even better. No, wrong. No, definitely not. And like I said, for me, nutrition is it's not one size fits all, and so what's good for one is not always good for the other. But I do think it's interesting. There's a lot to learn, but I think it's really important to really do your research and to listen to your body. So
let's listen to your body.
Yeah, because if you've got an autoimmune condition, spirulina is a great thing, don't get me wrong, but if you have an autoimmune condition, spirulina stimulates the immune system. So if you've got an underlying autoimmune condition and you don't know you've got it, like a rheumatoid arthritis.
Every day.
Yeah, so again, just pay attention to your body because it can be too stimulating. You don't want to overstimulate an already stimulated immune system,
Yeah.
So it depends.
One thing I wanted to, if you can choose 4 supplements only to take for the rest of your life,
for menopause or just for the rest of your life? I would say, God, that is a tricky one. If there's only 4 that you could take, I would say magnesium's a great one. As we know, there's a big buzzword going around about it.
And it does work.
It does work.
Yeah.
And again, I never really like to say every single day indefinitely for the rest of your life. I think it's really sensible to cycle on and off of things. So if you're taking magnesium, have a couple of weeks off once every few months. I just think if there is any, because magnesium and potassium work in synergy with each other. So you don't want magnesium getting super high and potassium being too low, because one relaxes the muscles, which is magnesium, potassium contracts the muscles. So you don't want to throw things out of balance, and it's an electrolyte as well.
I take the magnesium at the night. Powder to drink.
Yeah, an important electrolyte. So you don't want to have any kind of electrolyte imbalance. So I would always say it's good to just err on the side of caution, cycle on and off of things, because then you don't run the risk of anything building up in excess and you still get all the benefits of it. I think everyone should take a good quality antioxidant. I think if you really want to do anti-aging and prevent the aging and cellular death and telomere shrinkings, then you definitely want to be doing some sort of antioxidant, either a really good vitamin C, either a glutathione, which is brilliant, NAC is really good, so an antioxidant's really good. Number 4 would be like a really good green powder, and just have it every single day, because if there is any kind of nutritional, Terra Nova, not to promote any brands, but they do a really lovely, it's just one of my favourites.
Don't worry, we're gonna
I'm not sponsored, but there's a really good one, perfect. There's a really good, It's just one of my favourites. It's very innocuous in its flavour. So some of the green powders can be so hard to get down, and the Terra Nova one isn't.
And you know what? With the green powder, the reason why I bought this one because I cannot stand the taste of the green powder, and I know how beneficial
that one. I think you'll like
it is. So I bought this one. I said I'm gonna eat it. I'm gonna.
Have you tried the Terra Nova one before?
No.
We stock it as well.
They taste all the same.
No, this one doesn't. I promise you, it doesn't have a lot. I promise it does not. No, it's not. It's not.
But I know how beneficial.
I have some at home actually. I think I can. Maybe I'll be able to bring you.
I can get it.
No, I'll bring you a tiny bit before you invest because it's not super cheap, so it's an investment. But I'll bring you a little bit of the one that I have.
Why is it so good? Is it good for your gut health or?
It just tops up. If you're not, I mean, how many of us are eating enough greens? Really?
Nobody. Yeah.
Nobody's eating enough greens. The NHS say that you should have like 5 portions of fruit and vegetables every day. If you actually want longevity and health, it's actually more like 14 to 15 portions every single day. So it's hard to get that with each meal. That's like 5 portions with each breakfast, lunch and dinner. So if you have a green smoothie in the morning, not with loads of fruit, but with a good amount of greens, a little bit of fruit to make it palatable, but more on the berries side of things rather than the really sweet tropical fruits, and you put a scoop of green powder in there, you've covered almost like, if you put that into Chronometer and checked the nutritional status just of that smoothie alone, you'd already be more than 50% done for the day with what you needed.
So I'm going to give you that one ahead and then you can
and you feel incredible. Like, it just, energy, after a couple of weeks, your energy goes up, your hair, your skin, your nails start glowing. If you've got breaky, brittle nails, it stops. It's just
so what do you take in the morning or in the evening?
I usually just chuck it in a smoothie in the morning. Yeah, but you can take it. But I always think in the morning is the best time to take the green powders.
So what do you have for breakfast in the morning?
Either a smoothie if I'm on the go, so it's just easy and convenient for me. Sometimes I'll have chia seed pudding, some overnight oats with some berries on top.
You see, I used to have this, and then there's one lady, excellent, I forgot her name by the way, but she has this podcast. She's an expert of nutrition words like you, and she said start your morning with the salted food like eggs, anything. So and I used to love chia yogurt or
Again, I think it just depends. Again, if you've already got, let's say for example, if you have any kind of hypertension or you've got too much salt in the diet already, should you really be starting your diet if you've got high blood pressure on a really salt-laden meal? No. So again, it's really not one size fits all. And should you be having loads of fruit and oats if you've got insulin resistance? They don't spike insulin in the same. For me, when I've used oats and berries, even with clients that have insulin resistance, I've never seen weight gain. It's always helped them to get the weight
so
down.
I'm going to switch again to that one.
Yeah, if you're smothering it in honey, then of course not great. But if you're sweetening it with natural berries and you're not putting tons of honeys and sugars and agave nectars on there.
So before we finish, I have a quick reaction question.
Yeah.
If the chicken drank hot water, would it then lay a boiled egg?
I'm going to go no.
Isn't it concerning?
It's quite concerning. I don't want the chicken to drink hot water.
So, menopause isn't the end of something. It's simply another phase of life. And understanding it gives women the power to navigate it with more confidence. So on that note, what would you say all women who are going through the journey?
I think we should just embrace it for sure. Like I said, we have 3 phases in life. You have like maiden, mother and crone phase, shall we say. So the maiden is when we're in our younger pre-teen years. Mother would be when we're in our motherhood years, and then crone would be when we're in our more wise years. So I think it's something we should absolutely embrace. We should stick with it. We should listen to our bodies. We should make time to do more relaxing things. Maybe get into yoga if you're not already, breath work, breathing, and just have a good understanding of what is actually happening to your body and how you can support it through the journey. And I think if women do that and listen to their bodies a bit more, it's just going to be a smoother transition, you know?
So I felt that I'm going to do, it will be a good idea to create a tradition that each guest will leave a message or question for the another guest. So I will give you a notebook, so if you can write a note for the next guest. You are the first one. Thank you so much. Let me bring it over.
Who's your next guest?
Next guest is my lovely customer. She is she founded a really successful beauty academy in London. So she's going to talk about how she built a successful business.
Well, that would have been a really good question. How did you build a successful business? I would like to ask her what her biggest challenge was when she was building that successful business. Amazing. I actually want to possibly go into building my own supplement company, so it'll be very interesting.
Oh, really?
Yeah, to know what she says.
That's incredible. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Our views, where they can find you. Do you have a website?
So my website is actually under construction at the moment, but it should be done by the end of March, and it is under KD, Functional Nutrition. So yeah, those are my initials, and then Functional Nutrition.
And before we go, this is for you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. You're too kind. Thank you.
Love to take care of you.
My favourite.
Oh, thank you. And lovely to have you here because you've been always inspiration for me. So you are like a walking video. You know so much.
Well, it's been an absolute joy. Thank you so much for having me. And yeah, I look forward to seeing how it evolves. Thank you.